National Information Technology Development Agency NITDA pushes for local data hosting to boost Nigeria's tech ecosystem. Federal government urges Nigerians to embrace tax reform for future prosperity. Plus, oil gains on supply concerns from Iran sanctions and strong refining margins. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Nneka Oko, your guide. Now, irregular power supply has increased production costs for many businesses, especially micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs, forcing them to rely on diesel-run generators, which are not only expensive but also harmful to the environment. While some who can't afford to fuel their generators to run for at least a minimum of 15 hours a day are already out of business, others who can are battling low patronage due to the cost implication of the high cost of fuel, dollar rate, and inflation on their business or services. Well, to walk us through the implications of these on businesses, we have joining us in the studio Mr. Uket Obonga, National Secretary, Nigerian Electricity Consumers Advocacy Network, and Lead Director, Energy Consumers Consultancy Services. You're welcome to Business Express, Mr.
Thank you for having me.
All right, before we begin, let's join Bosede Abel Amusu, who went out to get the view of small business owners. Over to you, Bosede.
So I'm at a mall here in Area 11. We want to find out how business owners are coping due to lack of electricity and how it's affecting their business.
It's not convenient at all. It's not, because you have a bulk of work to print. And maybe if there was light, something that you do with like small money, like 1,000, you're ending up doing like 4,000 or more. So we're not finding it easy.
The papers we have, they don't really, because of heat, some of them is spoiled. So if there's light, you can put on the fan or the AC to make it be okay.
Most times, generator may actually have issues, and we'll be trying to fix the generator. So now this lack of light, constant light, is affecting our business very much.
We keep on buying fuel in order to meet up. Even when the fuel better, I have to make sure that I have fuel in my place. It's not really easy. It's not really easy, because sometimes I do that in order to satisfy my customers.
We used to on gen, immediately they take lights, but now as the fuel is cost, nothing like on of gen, and customers are complaining, like maybe they want to check on the system that they want to buy. There will not be, there's no light and there's no fuel for us to on gen. So
now to our discussion. The transmission company of Nigeria, TCN, recently announced the peak generation and transmission of more than 5,000 megawatts, the highest since this year. What is your take on this recent achievement, considering the current supply situation across the country, Mr. Uket?
Well, thank you for that question. TCN is celebrating 5,000 megawatts of what they call peak generation, transmission, and distribution. Well, that is very unfortunate. This is not the first time. The peak generation so far which was in 2017, was about 5,800 megawatts. And nothing has come close to that ever since that level of this thing was attained. We are rather going down, deteriorating, rather than making progress, which is very unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate. We have an installed generation capacity of 14,000 megawatts. And we are still battling with available generation capacity of 6,000 megawatts. And because of the weak, poor infrastructure at the transmission and distribution end of the value chain, we can't go beyond. What they are celebrating, can it be sustained? Can they sustain it? If it was done this year, or last week, or whatever date it was done, if we go back to the records, is it what is there? Is it sustainable? It's not sustainable. So we should stop deceiving ourselves. I see that is what pains some of us who are industry watchers. How can a country of over 230 million people be talking of 5,000 megawatts of electricity? And somebody will see somewhere there and thump his chest that is celebrating 5,000 megawatts of electricity. If they push it in the grid, we are going to have grid collapse because the transmission infrastructure cannot sustain that. It can't sustain that.
Now, power outages, continue to persist in spite of assurances by DISCOs. How can this situation be improved upon, especially with the onset of heat?
Outages will continue. Grid collapses will continue as long as nothing is done to upgrade and expand both transmission and distribution infrastructure. And this is why we are calling on the federal government, and they should please listen to us. There should be a technical forensic audit on the transmission infrastructure of Nigeria. People must be held to account. They must tame the corruption that is raging in that sector. Coming down to the distribution side of the chain, how much have the DISCOs invested since they took over? How much have they invested after the payment of acquisition capital? They should declare and publish to Nigerians for us to know how much the DISCOs have invested to expand on their distribution infrastructure. Until this is done, we are talking of a situation where the basic tool that guarantees revenue in the sector, which is the meter, we are still talking of, it's not there. We are still talking of a metering gap of about 7 million out of 13 or 14 million electricity consumers in Nigeria. So how, if there is no liquidity, if there is no money, if they are unable to collect revenues, how will they expand? Raking the money to expand infrastructure at the distribution end and the trend. And another thing again is that what is the aggregate technical losses of TCN? What is it? Have they been able to bring it down? Coming down to the DISCOs, the ATC&C, aggregate technical, commercial, and collection losses of the DISCOs is still very high as 35%, as high as 40%, as high as 42%. The meaning of that is that for every 100 naira of electricity distributed, you take out 42% from 100 naira. So what is paid for is the balance. If it is 42%, they are only collecting 58 naira.
Now, as someone who is representing the interests of consumers in the Nigerian electricity supply industry, what are the implications of these persistent outages on businesses, especially MSMEs?
The losses, the impact is enormous. Enormous. Number one, recently, Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, let's begin from the top there. Manufacturers Association of Nigeria declared that they are moving out of the grid, spending humongous amount on alternative power supply. What is the implication? If you are spending so much on power to generate electricity, you transfer that cost to the product, isn't it? And it's the final consumers that bears the cost. And that is why goods produced in Nigeria are more expensive than goods that are imported into the country because of this. Secondly, we are talking of operational costs that keep on increasing. If an SME, small and medium enterprise, take for instance, hairdressing salon, a hairdresser who has to buy fuel or diesel for a generator to be able to, is going to transfer that cost of fuel to the customer that comes to make a hair in that salon. So everybody's involved, everybody's affected. It reduces profitability in the market. In business, profitability is reduced drastically. Because if we are making, say, 10,000 naira in a month, and now the cost of fuel is gone up to 1,000 something or 900, we are still dancing between a liter of fuel or diesel. Diesel is over 1,000 naira. Fuel PMS is around 920, 1,000. So you see, it reduces profitability. And business owners will be discouraged. Even job losses. Take, for instance, in Abuja here, within the hotel industry. A lot of hotels are sacking, or what's the language used? Laying off workers because they cannot afford to pay. Because of what? Electricity bills. And the cost of running. When you don't have supply and you have guests in your hotel and you now go to buy diesel or this into power generator, you transfer the cost.
The unreliability of the grid, no doubt, is causing many industries to exit the grid, thereby affecting revenue in the power sector. Now, how best can Nigeria improve the performance of its grid to restore industry confidence?
Regulation, regulatory policies, and the governance structure has to be revisited. What do I mean? If you are to appoint someone to head a highly technical organization like Transmission Company of Nigeria, please drop politics. Nigerians are competent. Well, they are Nigerians that are competent, with soundly educated, who have records of performance. Go for merit. Electricity should be taken out of politics. Appointment into such sensitive technical areas shouldn't be based on rewarding political patronage. Go for competent Nigerians. Go for those who can do the job. It shouldn't be about where you come from. It shouldn't be about the religion you belong to or your faith. It should be competence and merit. And then people should be held to account for their actions. If there is a grid collapse, for instance, nobody is held to account. Nobody is questioned why it happened. They keep on spinning stories and giving excuses, compounding the problem by creating other problems. In the event of trying to solve the problem, they create other problems. Nobody is held to account. Can it happen in Uket that there is a grid collapse and the minister will be sitting in that office? No, it's not heard of. It can't happen.
All right, Mr. Uket, quickly, should Nigeria continue to rely on a single national grid? And what options
decentralize the grid, create more mini grids. Now they say, according to the Electricity Act, they say states now are given regulatory functions to create their own electricity businesses of generation, transmission, and distribution. But the question is that how many states can afford?
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Uket Obonga, National Secretary, Nigerian Electricity Consumers Advocacy Network and Lead Director, Energy Consumers Consultancy Services. We appreciate your time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.